What does it mean to believe in America? To believe in the idea of it? Is it the belief in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Or is it the belief in a nation built by the hands of the unwilling? What if I told you that the very man who gave us those immortal words was a man who lived a contradiction so profound it still haunts us today? This is the story not just of a founding father, but of a human being, a philosopher and a politician, a revolutionary and a slave owner. This is the story of Thomas Jefferson. Our story begins not in Philadelphia, but in the red soil of Virginia. Young Thomas Jefferson was, by all accounts, a child of privilege. Born into a planter family in 1743, he inherited land, status, and by the age of 21, a sizable estate he would name Monticello, Italian for Little Mountain. But Jefferson wasn't just a farmer. He was a mind, a voracious collector of books, a student of architecture, a tinkerer, a scientist. He had a restless, almost obsessive curiosity. He believed in the power of reason, in the Enlightenment ideals sweeping across Europe. He believed that a man could think his way to a better world. And then, the world cracked open. Tensions with Great Britain boiled over, and this soft-spoken, somewhat awkward Virginian was sent to the Continental Congress in 1776. He was just 33 years old. He wasn't a great speaker. He preferred his pen to the podium. And that's exactly why a committee including John Adams and Benjamin Franklin chose him for a seemingly impossible task, to draft a statement, an explanation to the world for why these colonies were breaking away. Imagine him, in a rented room in Philadelphia, the summer heat pressing in. He writes, and he writes, and in doing so, he poured the entire Enlightenment onto a page. He didn't just list grievances against a king, he laid out a philosophy for human existence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Think about the sheer, world-shattering power of that sentence. For the first time in history, a nation was founded not on the power of a king or the authority of a tribe, but on an idea that power comes from the people, that our rights aren't given to us by a government, but are ours by birthright. With those words, Jefferson set a fire that would burn down the British Empire in America and ignite revolutions around the globe. He became, instantly, a legend, the penman of the revolution. But what happens when the man who defines liberty goes home? He returned to Monticello, to his life as a planter. And here, we encounter the central, painful paradox of Thomas Jefferson. For the man who wrote, "All men are created equal," was also the master of over 600 human beings throughout his life. He lived in a mansion designed by his brilliant mind, filled with scientific instruments and thousands of books, a temple to reason, built and maintained by enslaved people who had no liberty, no right to pursue their own happiness. And the deepest wound of all, his relationship with an enslaved woman, Sally Hemings. Historians and DNA evidence have confirmed that Jefferson fathered at least 6 children with Hemings, who was herself the half-sister of his deceased wife. She was a teenager when it began. He was in his 40s. In the shadow of his perfect rational home lay a reality of power, coercion, and a love that, in that context, could never be called free. How do we reconcile this? How does the man hold the pen in one hand and the whip in the other? Perhaps he thought he could solve this contradiction from a distance. He served as minister to France, was our first Secretary of State, and then Vice President. And it was here he found another defining force in his life, a rival, Alexander Hamilton. Where Jefferson was a quiet, philosophical Virginian who dreamed of a nation of yeoman farmers, Hamilton was a brash, self-made immigrant from New York who envisioned a powerful, industrial America, fueled by banks and trade. Their battle was epic. It was the first great political war in American history. It wasn't just policy. It was a clash of souls for the heart of the new nation. Hamilton called Jefferson a radical dreamer. Jefferson saw Hamilton as a monarchist in disguise. This rivalry gave birth to America's first political parties, and it was against this turbulent backdrop that Thomas Jefferson ran for president in 1800. The election of 1800 was bitter, nasty, and deadlocked. It was finally decided in the House of Representatives, and when Jefferson won, he called it the Revolution of 1800, a peaceful transfer of power based on the will of the people, proving the American experiment could survive. As president, he doubled the size of the nation with the Louisiana Purchase, a bold, controversial move that went against his own strict interpretation of the Constitution. He sent Lewis and Clark on a journey of discovery that captured the nation's imagination. He was a leader of immense vision, yet he was also a man who could be cold, duplicitous, and stubbornly detached. In his retirement, he returned to his little mountain, to his books, his gardens, and his endless debts. He founded the University of Virginia, designing its buildings and curriculum, a final monument to his belief in education. But the world he helped create was beginning to strain at the seams. The question of slavery was becoming the nation's defining crisis, and on a remarkable day, July 4th, 1826, the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson took his last breath. His final, conscious words were, "Is it the 4th?" In a stunning coincidence, his old friend and rival, John Adams, died the same day. His last words said to be, "Thomas Jefferson still survives." He was right. Jefferson does survive, but not as a simple statue. He survives as our nation's most profound question. He gave us the words that became the moral compass of the nation, the standard to which we are still held accountable. Abraham Lincoln used those words to justify the fight to preserve the Union and end slavery. Martin Luther King, Jr. stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and called the Declaration a promissory note that had yet to be fulfilled. Jefferson's genius was that he gave us the aspiration. His failure was that he couldn't live up to it himself. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the American story isn't about perfect heroes. Maybe it's about flawed, complicated, brilliant, and tragic people who, despite their own failures, pointed us toward a North Star. The man behind the Declaration of Independence was not a god. He was a human. And his legacy is not a simple answer, but a continuous, challenging, and necessary question. What does it mean to believe that all are created equal? And what are we willing to do to finally make it true? The journey continues. Until next time, this is USA Inquire.